So I've made my fair share of DLSS 3 frame generation videos, FSR 3 frame generation videos, AFMF frame generation videos, and the sentiment in all of them have always been the same. I do love the tech. I think it is pretty great, but do not use it in multiplayer titles. I've always said that, especially competitive shooters, and you can see that my DLSS frame generation videos and my FSR frame generation videos are actually my most viewed videos. You can see over here, this one has 73,000 views, almost 50,000, another 25,000. So a lot of people are interested in this, and I love the tech, as I said. And recently Call of Duty actually launched an update that introduced DLSS 3 frame generation in their multiplayer modes. So is it actually usable? If it is, I'm going to have to swallow all my words. I actually even made a tweet about it yesterday to say that don't use it in competitive shooters. But today we'll be testing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 to see if DLSS 3 frame generation is actually usable in competitive multiplayer shooters. Well, that's a mouthful. All right, let's get right to the game. Alright, so I just jumped into a team deathmatch here. My teamies are going to be very angry with me. I'm going to have to talk pretty quick because these team deathmatches don't last very long. Just a word of advice or just a warning. I do suck in this game. I'm not going to be shooting. I'm just going to be running around and playing. This is at 1440p on the extreme preset with an RTX 4070 and a 12700K CPU paired with DDR4 DDR4 4000 MHz CL18 memory. You can see all the specs in the middle there with the MSI afterburn overlay. I'm just having both in the middle and then in the top right hand corner just to show you the average PC latency, as well as DLSS 3 frame generation actually does increase latency. So you can see we are getting around, between 140 and 160 frames per second here on the epic preset or extreme preset. Sorry, played too many other games. Anyway, doesn't matter. So our average PC latency is around 14 milliseconds, right? Between 14 and 16 milliseconds, which is supposed to be end-to-end latency. This is the only tool that I do have to monitor it because NVIDIA doesn't want to send me an LDAT, even though I do have 1,100 subscribers. I don't know what's up with that. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. You can see our PC latency there. Like I do know it's a little bit in the way there, the pop-ups, but it's around 16 milliseconds, right? All right, so let's just go ahead and enable DLSS super resolution here. So we can just go down here. I'm just going to drop it onto quality, right? So we got between 140 and 160 frames per second, 14 millisecond latency. And now we are getting slightly higher frame rate. It does differ depending on where you are in the map, but our average PC latency is still around 12 to 14 milliseconds. And the game still looks pretty good. This is actually where I'll be playing this game, except I will be playing on the basic preset, not on the extreme preset. Anyway, the number we are interested in is not the amount of kills that I do, but the average PC latency there. So let's just go ahead and enable frame generation. Just have a look at the number there, between 12 and 13 milliseconds, almost 200 frames per second here, fully GPU bound pretty much, right? So let's go ahead and enable DLSS 3 frame generation. So it's just a toggle that you enable there. And I do have reflex low latency just on. I don't think you can change it to on plus boost. Just remember that the DLSS 3 frame generation does force reflex low latency, right? So let's just reset our numbers. I do see quite a bit of stuttering when I do enable the numbers there or when I reset the numbers. Now you can see our average PC latency pretty much doubled, and we didn't gain anything with regards to the frame rate. Now, once again, this is on the extreme preset, so we are pretty GPU bound with these settings, but we didn't gain much, and our increase in latency is pretty much double. Right, and I can definitely feel it. I'm playing on a 165 hertz monitor here, and I do feel the latency, even though I do get a kill. That doesn't really say much, but for me it does say a lot. Anyway, I do think it's very funny. This is not my type of game. Anyway, I did get an assist there as well, so we are definitely winning. But you can see 30 milliseconds average PC latency up from 12 milliseconds, and no increase in the frame rate whatsoever. So I think we have time. Let's just drop this down to the basic preset and see if we actually see a difference there with DLSS frame generation or not. Now, I do know that some settings you can't change in game, but I'm just going to enable the basic preset here, and we gained 10, 20, 30 frames per second here. Average PC latency with DLSS frame generation is still 26. I mean, it's better than 30, but let's just see if we disable DLSS 3 frame generation. I forgot to do that now, unfortunately. So let's just see if we still get, I mean, we're getting 230 frames per second and 10 millisecond latency. So DLSS 3 frame generation with this specific system, it's actually hampering performance. I'm not entirely sure why. We are definitely getting a lower frame rate with the frame generation enabled, so that's not ideal. And also you get a higher input latency. So lower frame rate, higher input latency, definitely not worth it. Let's just see again on the standing still over here, getting 230 frames per second. Let's hope I don't die, and let's just enable frame generation again quickly. And I'm going to die. Damn it. Let's see if I can just go back to that same location. I have no idea where that is. First time playing this game ever. So I mean, I did try a warm-up map and that didn't go well at all. That's how I know I suck in this game. So we're just getting, I think overall we're getting a lower frame rate, and it's very, very strange. So I think maybe not use frame generation at all, because you get a higher input latency and you do get a lower frame rate for some obscure reason. That's my friend, sorry. So I'll be testing it on an RTX 4060 a little bit later to see if maybe there's a difference, although I doubt it. It does seem to work kind of weird in this game, by not doing much. All right, that guy's quite quick, not quick enough. Anyway, all right, so I think I don't worry about the 1%, 2% and 0.1% lows. If I do refresh them, you can just see that they stutter and it gets broken again. Got no idea why that is. Maybe because alt. All right, let's try this now. No, it does. It creates a big stutter and doesn't work at all. So, I mean, with frame generation enabled, getting a higher average PC latency, getting a lower frame rate on this specific system, it might differ on different systems, but definitely not how I'll be playing this game. Alright, so I'm just testing this on another system just for sanity's sake. This is on an RTX 4060 with a 12600K CPU and DDR4 3600 MHz CL18 memory. So a completely different system with Windows 10, not Windows 11 as with the previous system. And I just want to see if we actually do get a performance bump with a frame generation with another system. I doubt it, but I just wanted to make 100% sure. So we're getting quite a high frame rate here. We are getting around 160 frames per second. This is on the basic preset, and once again, I'm just not going to try. It's very difficult for me to focus on the numbers and trying to shoot people. I mean, it's difficult enough for me to shoot people or to try and shoot people. Doing two things at the same time is just not my forte. Anyway, so I mean, it's getting between 150 and 200 frames per second on this RTX 4060, which is pretty good. But our average PC latency once again is between 12 and 14 milliseconds. Let's just call it 15 milliseconds. Let's enable DLSS on quality, and then we'll enable frame generation as well. Right, I don't think I said it, but this is at 1080p. All right, so we just go to quality and we'll enable upscaling here. We'll just use DLSS on quality for now. Let's just see what kind of performance we are getting. And I mean, I don't have the MSI Afterburner loaded just yet. I just wanted to see, look at the average PC latency, 21,000 milliseconds. Anyway, so it dropped down to around 11 milliseconds latency, 220 frames per second. This is actually a very, very good experience. We should be able to play at, I actually hit him. We should be able to play at 1440p comfortably with this setup. Right, but once again, we're just looking at the average PC latency and then the frame rate to see if it actually increases. So hopefully I don't die. 200 to 210 frames per second in this specific spot, 12 millisecond average PC latency. Let's just enable frame generation here, and hopefully I click the correct one this time. And all right, so we lost, and I mean, we went from, now it seems pretty much the same. I was just about to say it dropped down to like 140. but we're getting around the same frame rate. We were getting between 200 and 210 here. We're getting 200 and 210 here now with frame generation. And there's another guy there. And I see that's why you shouldn't play with frame generation. Okay, that's just me being terrible. But you can see our average PC latency pretty much doubled once again. Now, our base frame rate is extremely high, or our frame rate is very high. This is once again on a 165 hertz monitor, so we are exceeding our refresh rate. You should, I mean, I'm going to be playing this with a frame rate cap or targeting settings at 165 frames per second, but you can just see that we didn't gain anything from enabling frame generation. And what's this guy shooting at? And our input latency doubled. So yeah, frame generation, even on an entry level, this is the most entry level GPU that supports, oops, wrong button. E is not opening doors. You see, so as I said, this is the entry level GPU that supports frame generation. Even on an entry level GPU at 1080p, frame generation is not doing anything at all. And this is a 1080p GPU. Sure, you want a pretty high frame rate. Ah, see, we got one. There's another one. So we did get a, I mean, we are getting a pretty high frame rate here. And I just play without frame generation. That's just my, oops. That's just my recommendation. Play without frame generation. You get the lowest possible input latency. You still get 200 frames per second, give or take. So there we go. All right. So yeah, that's going to be the end of this video. I thought it was the end of the video at the end of the RX 4070 section, but now it really is the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And as always, we hope to see you in the next one.